For this corner pour soap, I'm going to use clays as my colors. Mostly I've doctored those up with a little bit with some other colors. So for red, I'm using Australian red reef clay mixed with some white kaolin clay. For yellow, I'm using Brazilian gold clay. For green, I'm using French green clay and also a little bit of green mica pigment just to color it up a bit. And then for purple, this is Brazilian purple clay. For blue, I have white kaolin with just a small amount, maybe a quarter teaspoon of indigo powder. And then for a white layer, I'm just using plain kaolin clay. I'll plan to hydrate all of those with about a tablespoon of water before I add the soap batter, except for the one with the indigo. Since indigo won't mix with water, I'll also add, in addition to the water, a little bit of oil. This is going to be kind of a modified corner pour. I tried this the other day on a soap and I liked it a lot. I'm going to pour it as a corner pour, but then I'm going to swirl it as if it were a standard drop swirl. As I've been doing lately, I'm using a fairly slow moving recipe of 20% coconut oil, 40% lard, 40% olive oil. I like that. My oil is at room temperature. My lye is just above room temperature. And as usual, I'm going to stick blend it to emulsion. Keeping my stick blender in a container of warm water to rinse it in. This recipe also has Nature's Garden brand Freesia fragrance oil, which I like a lot. It's a very slow moving oil and it smells good. So I'm going to divide this up now in one of my colors. Cheated my yellow a little. I don't have as much of it, but it's okay. So I'll blend the yellow, then the green. Purple. And the red. So I'm going to pour these in yellow, purple, green, red, blue order. And as usual for a corner pour, I'm going to prop up the corner of the mold that I'm going to pour into so that the soap will run across the mold. I'm going to pour right into the corner. Since I don't have as much yellow, I'm going to use smaller amounts of it on each cycle. I like that green. By adding just a little bit of green mica, it brightened it up from what the French green clay would have done on its own. One nice thing about using a corner pour and then stirring it as if it were a drop swirl, unlike a drop swirl, it's going to have all the stripes of color the whole way through, just because of the way the corner pour was done. Starting to get some blending there, so I'm going to slow down on some of these pours. Still experimenting with indigo. This is indigo with white kale and clay. It seems like it ends up either too pale or too dark. It'll sometimes turn gray. I just haven't found one that I like a lot yet. Because I have the least amount of yellow, I think I want to finish with it, so I save just a bit of it to go in last. This is still pouring really well. Now, if this were a regular corner pour, I would do radial swipes out of the pouring corner. But instead, I'm going to treat it as if it were a drop swirl. So I'm going to go this way, probably 1 inch, maybe a little more intervals. And then crosswise the same way. Use circular swirls. And around the edge. I think I like that. So let's tap it a bit to get, I don't need to get the prop out from under it. Tap it a bit to get the bubbles out. And then I'll bake that at 170 degrees for at least an hour. So here's a close-up of the surface before it goes into the oven. I really like that pattern. Got a lot of very fine swirl lines there. This soap is about 14 hours old. It is hardened nicely, so it's ready to cut and take out of the mold. This is a 9-bar mold that I had custom made. It also has the miter cuts in the sides, so I can make 9 nice even bars that weigh about 8.5 ounces a piece. So that's a nice big bar of soap, and I'm pleased with the pattern, the way these turned out. So far, I'm liking the shade of blue that this Indigo came out. The blob right in the center is Indigo, as opposed to this center one, which is the French green clay with a little bit of green mica added. They're nicely different from each other. Sometimes the Indigo comes out green enough that you're not quite sure which part should actually be green. So I still wished it were a brighter blue. It's kind of a faded blue jeans look, which I guess is reasonable for natural indigo, but it'll do. Here is the finished corner pour, about 14 hours old, and ready to be cut. Harder than I expected it to be. Not a bad thing as long as you can get a knife through it. The bottom surface of this is rather plain looking, and that's pretty usual for a corner pour. Usually the first color you pour is the most predominant one on the bottom surface. But then the cut sides are quite pretty. Here are the finished cut bars. So there's a top surface and a cut side. That's the side that was next to the mold wall. Nice cut side there. And then the bottom. I wish I had a little more yellow in this, but I was using a different ladle from usual, and usually I can count the number of ladles full that I put in each color and predict when I'll come to the end, but this time I ran out of batter before I had all of my yellow done. Still, it gives it a nice contrasting stripe that it needs. I like that. One thing I've found with indigo is when you get a really bright blue like that you see right above my little finger, it often fades after a few days of curing the soap, which is disappointing. We'll see what happens this time.